People always ask me, what's it like having a ragdoll cat? Well, let me show you what a typical day is like with my ragdoll, George. While each day can be slightly different, all are filled with moments of love, happiness, sometimes stubbornness, and funny moments. And I do believe that George's behaviors are a good representation of what you can expect with this type of breed on average. I'll cover the good and bad, but just know that we love our ragdoll and that he is a true member of the family. Also, over the course of this video, you're going to see the 11 personality traits that are common with the breed. Let's dive in. George's day typically begins at 4 or 5 a.m. when he wakes up and wonders why no one else is awake. It's almost like he thinks that we're late for some important event and that everyone needs to get up as quickly as possible. He usually sleeps downstairs in our living room, but will come up to our bedroom and go through a series of escalating behaviors in an effort to wake us up. This starts with him purring on us and then progressing to meowing and eventually banging lamp cords against the wall. On the weekends, we try to get a few extra hours of sleep, but during the week, we usually get out of bed after George starts getting antsy. Once he sees us get out of bed, he will run over to the faucet in our bathroom and wants us to turn it on so that he can get water. Interestingly, once everyone is up, he almost always goes right back to sleep. It's like he thinks he did his job of waking us up and that he can now go back to sleep. But he usually doesn't stay asleep too long as he eventually gets hungry, so he'll wake up from where he was sleeping, which will now have a few pounds of fur left over. And let me just say, if you are thinking about getting a ragdoll, be prepared for the enormous amount of shedding that they are known for. No matter how much you think they will shed, it will be much worse. You'll be amazed where their fur ends up. But after waking up, George will want to eat. And as is common with ragdolls, he is a picky eater whose tastes seem to change frequently. For example, he might only want hard food one day and then protest it the next day. Here in this picture, you can see that he didn't want his hard food that day and just stared at us in protest. We then gave him the soft food that he loves, but then he walked away from it and a few minutes later started eating the hard food that he originally didn't want. And he seems to love all of it, but at different times and on a schedule that we're not really privy to. And while it can be frustrating, he does always end up eating. After he eats, it is usually still early to mid-morning. He will then meow at our back sliding door. He wants to go outside, but he has always been an indoor cat. That doesn't last long, and with a full belly, he quickly falls asleep somewhere around the house. Ragdolls love to follow their owners around, and George is no different. So he will follow one of us to where we are in the house and then fall asleep in some crazy position with his legs up in the air. However, anytime we get up and go somewhere, he will wake up and follow us. We almost always go to the kitchen at some point later in the morning, so he will follow us and then stand next to the faucet and stare at us until we turn it on and let him drink. And for some reason, he almost never drinks out of his actual water bowl. This also goes for trips to the bathroom. He will follow us to the bathroom and then either wants to use his litter box or will just hang out in there until we're done. It's actually pretty funny. Once we're done in the bathroom or the kitchen and we go and sit back down, he'll go right back to sleep. Again, in some crazy position. He almost always sleeps near us, but rarely wants to sleep on our laps. George will sleep like this until about 3 p.m. when my son comes home from school. George waits for him just like a dog and gets excited when he comes in the door. And my son will say hello to him, but now George is fully energized and wants to play. I usually will play with him for a bit, but if I'm working and I can't stop at that immediate moment, George will keep setting random things on my foot. But if I don't play with him in that exact moment, he will look for things to knock off the counter or shelf if I'm in my office, and will also run around the house looking for trouble. It can be quite funny because many ragdolls are somewhat clumsy. Ours doesn't typically jump up on things that are super high and frequently falls off things. After he runs off all the energy, he will spend a period of time hanging out next to me and staring at me until a little after 5 p.m., which is when I usually work out in the garage. George loves to hang out with me in the garage while I work out, but usually starts getting tired and eventually falls asleep right in the middle of everything. But I like having him hang out with me, so I usually just work around him and let him sleep. By 6 or 7 p.m., it's dinner time. He's usually pretty hungry by that point, so he will eat and then want to play again. And I've talked about this in my other videos, but George loves to play fetch, just like a dog, and this is pretty common with ragdolls. If I throw something for him, he will continuously go get it and bring it back to me. The only thing that will stop him is if he gets too hot and needs to spread out and cool off. Around this time, our family will usually sit down for dinner. Although George has already eaten, he will still beg for food, and we have to be careful to make sure he doesn't try to take food from our plates. We've tried to train him around this, but as you may know, training a cat can be futile. After our family has dinner, George will go sit somewhere, clean himself, and then usually fall asleep again until we start saying goodnight to each other. He gets super jealous when we hug our son goodnight and will stare at us and even attempt to bite our ankles from time to time. This just goes to show that ragdolls want all the attention and want our lives to revolve around them. I think this fits with how the ragdoll breed shows love, but it could just be George's personality. Finally, at the end of the day, George will fall asleep again. However, I know that he roams around the house in the middle of the night, but perhaps that is a story for a future video. In conclusion, if you are thinking of getting a ragdoll, I think it is safe to say that you might experience a large number of these personality traits. But thanks so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video, and please like and subscribe for future information and insider tips on ragdolls.